Keep your filthy politics out of my damned entertainment. I'm Danielle Metz.
I'm Robert Vaughn.
And this is the Danielle Metz Show. Quote, when I think about the obscene amount of praise that got heaped on this movie, I'm reminded of the Soviet Union, when Stalin would go to make a speech about something, and everyone would stand up to applaud him. But nobody wanted to be the first one to stop clapping, so because that might mean you weren't as loyal as everyone else. So it just went on for like 5 minutes straight until Stalin himself got pissed off and had to tell them to stop. That feels a bit like what we're living through right now. Progressive politics is the Joseph Stalin of our times, and everyone is so terrified of attracting its anger that they just go along with the crowd and keep clapping, because it's easier to clap until your hands are red raw than be the one who dares to sit down first. The Critical Drinker stated in his video titled, Black Panther is the most overrated MCU movie ever. I don't watch TV or movies much anymore. My interest in pop culture started waning years ago, as I noted the invasion of politics into entertainment shifting from subtle to glaringly blatant. No need to worry about subliminal messages anymore. From Ghostbusters 2016 to The Last Jedi, Terminator Dark Fate, latest Charlie's Angels, Batwoman, Hollywood's politically correct message is blinding.
Yes.
And earlier this year, I started discovering a lot of new people on YouTube and BitChute who loved pop culture and storytelling in general, who found themselves forced to discuss progressive politics because it's current year, where women are king, diversity is our strength, racial, sexual, gender quotas must be filled, and the story doesn't matter as long as it fits the current forced narrative. Excuse me. The last time we discussed people we found inspiring or interesting that we followed, I had focused on political pundits. But this time, I want to discuss people who, because of their love of our culture, find themselves in the sad position of coming to realize that PC cancel culture is coming for all the intellectual properties that they hold dear. I stumbled across the Critical Drinker, aka Will Jordan, whom I quoted at the outset, during the downfall...
That's his name. Oh.
Pardon?
Will Jordan. Will Jordan, that's his name, is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
He's excuse me. He's published a series of novels under that name about a CIA operative named Ryan Drake, and surprisingly, he had a contest asking a question about it, and to see if I can get my name in his next book. I entered it, so maybe I might be in his next book because I love this guy. He's great. He's got an adorable accent, a wicked sense of humor. He reviews movies, TV shows, video games, and books, obviously, since he's an author himself. I came across him because of Game of Thrones, which I've never watched. I don't know if you have, Robert. Have you ever watched Game of Thrones?
Yes, I've watched it all, yes.
What did you think
I
about
haven't
season
read
8?
it.
Crash and burn is from what I hear.
Bored.
It was rushed. They just shoved everything into a shortened season. I've never watched it, but I know all about it thanks to people like the Critical Drinker and other people who do the reviews for me, so I don't have to bother myself.
Now, I have to apologize. I interrupted your opening monologue. Do you want to just catch up where you left off?
That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, so that's my favorite. I can watch his videos over and over and over again. The Critical Drinker, highly recommend him. I don't have a specific video of his to recommend because they're all just great. And I've watched him progress over the last year from, he used to be a lot more soft-spoken and measured. Now he acts like he's drunk, but it's cute because he's Scottish, so it's great. It's a comic relief, but very intelligent guy who understands the way movies work. Another Scotsman I fancy is Count Dankula, aka yes. Marcus Meacham, and you probably know him as the man who made the humorous video about teaching his girlfriend's pug to do the Nazi salute, which he posted on YouTube to amuse the 10 people who were subscribed to his channel at the time, aka his friends, only to have it blow up all over the internet, resulting in actual charges being laid against him. And this is how he went from being a comedian to being a political figure, who ended up running for UKIP, of all things. I highly recommend, outside of politics, which I agree with him largely on, I highly recommend this series, Absolute Mad Lads, which are essentially documentaries on wild historical figures read in a delightful accent. I love the Scottish accent, in case you can't tell, and with a huge dose of humor. I think
the last one he did was Billy the Kid.
Yes, it was excellent. I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't realize Billy the Kid was actually essentially kind of railroaded. I always thought he was like a bad boy kind of figure in history that people just idolized. I didn't realize that he was kind of a folk hero because he was railroaded by the system, which I thought was very interesting. Another favorite is Razorfist on his channel, The Rageaholic. His name is actually Daniel Harris. He does actually come from a political background, unlike some of the other people I'm talking about. But his channel focuses primarily on movie, TV, music, and video games. He's a fast-talking metalhead who did a great video that I highly recommend called What We Can Learn from Cicero. Don't let the long hair, heavy metal, and reflective sunglasses fool you. He is very intelligent.
Yes, he is.
Let's see, who else? Dictor Van Doomcock. His channel is actually DVD Overlord. He's something of an acquired taste. His critique of popular culture is presented kind of campy. He's a super villain, complete with a mask and threatening voice. But his video, the video in particular that got me attracted to his channel is Disney Ruined Star Wars by Violating the Laws of Canon. Because it's a great look at our modern mythos and how it's being purposely rewritten and destroyed. And it's very, very thought-provoking. I highly recommend it.
Have you seen Mandalorian yet?
No, I don't intend to. I'm not doing Star Wars, sorry.
Okay, by principle?
No, am I not doing it on principle? Yeah, pretty much. I got people watching it for me, so I don't have to take the time.
I find it mildly entertaining.
That's pretty much what I got from the people
mildly entertaining.
The Baby Yoda thing I hear is cute, but doesn't interest me. It's not my thing. The only thing I actually kind of do want to watch is the new Star Wars movie coming out. Just for morbid curiosity. I don't have any vested interest in it. I've heard so much backstory behind it now. I don't know how much is rumor, how much is true. And that's also a large part of how I got involved in following these people, is because they're invested in these franchises and they're watching them being destroyed. And anything from the direction Marvel is taking from what they've done to Star Wars, what they've done to Star Trek, they're watching their childhoods being ripped apart. And that's why they're find themselves dragged from just enjoying, let's debate who's the better superhero, to, my God, what are you doing to the things that I've loved, and why are you destroying them on purpose to be part of your political agenda? It's just disgusting. Another person who notices this is MauLer, who's also known as Callum Edmonds. He dissects movie with a scalpel in his video series called Unbridled Rage. So be prepared to invest as much time as in the runtime of the movie itself, if not more. He has a great grasp of the art of filmmaking and storytelling, and calls out the shoehorning of diversity and PC crap that we're subject to these days. His critique of The Last Jedi spans 3 separate videos that are all 1.5 to 2 hours long each. So be prepared to set some time or find something else to do while you listen to his videos. And finally, although there's many more I could offer, these are the ones I follow the most. I have Jeremy Handley, who hosts Midwesterly, Quartering, and a handful of other channels, and Gary Buechler of Nerderotic. They're both entertainment geeks. They both bemoan this current state of our culture under the pressure of politics forced down our favorite franchises, and they both have an excellent understanding of the politics of the entertainment world. They do daily shows, so I don't have any particular video to recommend for them, because it's like Timcast and Tim Pool does the daily updates. They do that for entertainment. So it's like a newscast for entertainment. But I highly recommend checking them both out. But yeah, there's lots more, but those are the ones that I've really followed lately, and those are the reasons why.
You're bringing up a point that has been going through my mind recently, especially with the Star Trek, Star Wars canons being destroyed.
Yes.
By adding on PC stuff. And that is that, and especially the Game of Thrones, which I tried to read the book. It is insurmountable. I could not read it.
I couldn't remember who anybody was. I got 2 or 3 chapters in, and I was lost.
There's that, and I was lost with the movies. I still don't know who anybody is in the movies, and I've seen it all. The book was just poorly written, and plotting, and indecipherable. But what it brings up is that there are things in our past that have shaped our political viewpoints. And now we're talking about current stuff, the TV shows and the social media people that we follow on YouTube, BitChute, etc. And But there are things which transcend all of that, because a lot of these videos, a lot of these podcasts, and perhaps even like this video, will just go by the wayside and be forgotten. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, I'd look at our YouTube channel and the videos that I post. After the first month, that's when you get all your viewers. Mm-hmm. After that, it's downhill from there, and it's just a trickle. It's just a trickle. And I'm talking about even videos that on our channel have gotten 20, 30, 40, 50,000 views. Most of that is within the first month.
Yep.
After that, it's just like, okay, it's history. It's hard to find because there's such a morass of material out there talking about the things that we talk about that it gets lost in that sea of political discourse. Now, there are things, and I'm going to sort of go a little off topic here and bring up books. Books. Remember that Star Trek
I've
episode?
Heard of them. I've heard of them.
Remember that Star Trek episodes with Connolly, with the lawyer, and
yes.
he brought up books.
The court martial.
Yes, that was the episode. And I've just got a few books here with paper.
That don't change. It's not data. It's actual printed fact.
That's true. Now, mind you, the libraries out there are doing their darndest to destroy books. And all you have to do to confirm this is to go into a library today, a public library, and you'll be amazed at the lack of books that are in there. Well, they'll have lots of computers.
Yep. Well, it's funny because we've been organizing and trying to parse down a lot of extra stuff we have. So we've been going through our books. And I'm keeping atlases, I'm keeping old dictionaries, I'm keeping old books on medicine, I'm keeping old books. Why? Because
Atlases.
They are, yeah.
Here's my atlas.
They are actually permanent records of real things where when you come to this digital format, anybody can change it at any time. Wikipedia can be changed at any time, so you can't trust it.
As a matter of fact, yes, because, for example, in Canada today, there was one conservative commentator, Manny Ottawa, he went by that title, 34,000 followers. On the 8th of December, Twitter suspended his account. Now, I don't like Manny Ottawa's opinion. I've disagreed with it most of the time. However, shocked to see that he's gone. Now, he's had thousands upon tens of thousands of tweets, little bon mots, little aphorisms that would go out there. Now, what's happened to those? If he had written a book, it would still be here. But no, it's on Twitter. Our stuff is on YouTube and BitChute. If YouTube and BitChute go under tomorrow, all of this work, we'd have to put it on a website. Well, justrightmedia.org.
Wait, it's actually why I also stopped posting a lot of stuff on Facebook. 'Cause at first it was like, well, if I post this stuff, I can retrieve it later, but you never know when I'm going to be banned. And all the creative work, because it is creative work to post something on these websites, can be just taken away from you at a moment's notice or corrupted. Somebody can alter it and you wouldn't have no control over it.
That's correct. Now, what I've done on Facebook and Twitter is that every now and then I come up with a gem. I do have them now and then. And
I don't.
I write it down. I have a file, and which is backed up, of all these little aphorisms, observations that are particularly good, and I keep them. I don't know what for. Maybe one day I will write a book. But speaking of that,
you would have already written a book because you've already got it written down, right?
That's true, yeah. I've been telling your father to put all his good stuff into a book too, maybe one of these days. But I'll tell you some of the stuff that I've been going through just recently, and I showed you already Atlas Shrugged. That's my Atlas right there. This is a phenomenal book that has changed people's lives, and highly recommended.
I first read it when I was 12.
Yeah, that's
because
what
everybody was
happened to
talking about it, so I had to figure out what everybody was talking about, so I read it. I had a lot of time to kill when I was 12.
And behind me there on my shelf, let me see if I can get this right there, that little blue one, that's the Objectivist. That's Ayn Rand's writings. And what else is it back there? Oh, no, I brought him over here. Yeah. Leonard Peikoff. If you don't want to read Rand, you don't have to. You can read Objectivism, The Philosophy of Ayn Rand by Leonard Peikoff. Now, Leonard Peikoff was her intellectual heir, and he basically encapsulated the essence of her philosophy in this book.
Yeah,
So,
for people who found her writing too dense, because she did get kind of dense at times.
yeah, now Leonard's come up with this as well. A few years ago, he did the dim hypothesis, a fascinating look at how we integrate knowledge. And as a matter of fact, what I'm talking about here with books and what you're talking about with all of this political commentary out there is that's our vocabulary, that's our knowledge that we integrate into our experiences and our whole and assimilate it so that it becomes second thought, I mean, not second thought, but second nature. And this is about that, of how people integrate or disintegrate or misintegrate knowledge. This is hence the DIM, dim hypothesis, disintegration, integration, misintegration. Misintegration simply being an error in logic. Integration meaning that you take all this information, integrate it into a proper working whole. And disintegration, of course, is what we see with, for example, what's her name? Jo Swinson, Lib Dem over in the UK, who lost her seat. She couldn't answer a question a few days ago about, can you define women for me? And she couldn't do it because her mind is disintegrating. Yeah. Now that was on Sargon of Akkad did
his Akkad Daily channel.
Analysis of that. Yeah, Akkad Daily. Yeah. Now just go have a look at that to see a person whose mind is working on a disintegrated mode of logic. You take separate things and they don't come together to form a cohesive whole. Other books. Oh, this is nice. What I recommend to a lot of people to do, just to see how far we've gone, you've mentioned, for example, the Star Trek canon or the Star Wars canon. Star Trek being the better one of the two. But I went back, going into a bookstore, remember those? I went back and I picked up some books on, where are we? What our parents and grandparents, in this case it would be grandparents, great-grandparents, went through to become the intellectuals that they were or are. And this is the Ontario Reader's third book, right? 14 cents, hardcover. But in it you'll find the poetry and the excerpts from literature that they used to learn how to read, write, and think. And if you went back and you found these books, I've got quite a few of them actually, the Ontario Reader's first book, Ontario Reader's fourth book, and if you're in the United States or in other provinces in Canada, there will be the original text that your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents used, and it becomes very instructive to look at them and to integrate them. And you can see why that generation, those generations, thought clearly and logically and had common sense. It's because of the way they were taught. Those
readers, I have a couple kicking around the house, they're very structured. They're basically A is A, 2 plus 2 equals 4, and this is, we're going through none of this new core curriculum math crap where there's 17 ways to answer the question as opposed to just one. It's very straightforward to the point, which is how you learn to think rationally. Don't take detours, that's where your emotions and your feelings get involved. And I love those books.
Now, you can see that there's a hierarchy of knowledge, and you can see it expressed in these books of how they start off simply, but still with good text, and then come to the more complex, building on what went before. But you look at today's schools, especially the elementary schools, and you'll have a first-hand knowledge of that, not just from your own self, but from your twins who are in elementary school right now, that what they're being taught are disjointed concretes, not connected anywhere. For example, it's good to recycle. That's a higher order political concept, recycling. Or climate change, another higher order political concept that should only be taught perhaps in universities. When
and
you
with
can talk
the whys,
about,
you notice there's no whys involved. It just is.
Oh yes.
It's a flat out statement.
Therefore,
they're setting it as a foundation where they're at this age where they're unquestioning about those foundations. So they're just saying, we're going to drill this into you before you start questioning it. So it's always going to be a reflexive action when you get older because it's going to be so ingrained in your psyche when you're a kid.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
it
religion.
becomes rote. It's rote. It's
religion.
rote learning and religion, yeah. Some of the other books, reading that we'll end the show off with, I guess, is like Milton Friedman's Free to Choose. Now, Ayn Rand hated Milton Friedman because he was a pragmatist, right? Now, but he has, and by the way, if you don't want to read the book, there is a PBS series out there, Free to Choose. You may be able to find some.
I actually have it up on my desktop.
Oh,
I have a folder with it sitting on my desktop.
But even a clock is right twice a day. And Milton Friedman, of course, was a great economist of the Chicago School and right about a lot of things. Now, if you put aside the fact that he was pragmatic, in other words, capitalism is good because it works versus what Ayn Rand would say is capitalism is good because it is moral. Another book I'm reading, just picked it up actually, because of Milton Friedman, he mentioned it in a speech he gave, was The Socialist Phenomenon by Igor Shafarevich.
That one I've never heard of.
I liked it because near the end it talks about the death cult of the left. You know how I'm always talking about how the left is a death cult? I get you a t-shirt
for Christmas that says the death cult of socialism.
And some of the other stuff that you might want to pick up is Frederic Bastiat. This one is, the light from there is really glaring. Economic Sophisms by Frederic Bastiat. But the one that, if you want to start off with a great book from Bastiat, is this little tiny book called The Law.
Interesting.
Everything you want to know about political economics is in here. Rights, economy, capitalism. Lots more Ayn Rand stuff. I've got the Objectivist newsletters, the Ayn Rand letter.
Do you have Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt?
Hazlitt, yeah.
Harry Hazlitt? I can't remember his first name.
Yeah,
that was one of my favorite.
This is another one that I keep well worn on my desk, is the Ayn Rand lexicon. Just to keep, it's like a reference dictionary of Ayn Rand's philosophy. Friedrich Hayek, The Road to Serfdom. Another Bastiat one here. Gosh, that light's bright, isn't it?
You read a lot. So
no, I just have a lot of books.
Are these like what you've read over like recently, or is this stuff you started reading when you were younger? Like what time frame in your life was that? Did these books become important to you?
Oh, after 30. So up to my 25 to 30, it was all fiction, very little nonfiction, but then when you start to work and get a job and understand the importance of politics and how people want to kill you and steal your stuff, you have to understand why. And so I began, probably with Rand. Probably with Rand. I think Ayn Rand, the connection between the fiction and nonfiction was Robert A. Heinlein. Now, he was more of a libertarian, a bit of a mess up in his head when it came to a lot of things.
But but there were so many things that he was so brilliant about that.
True.
You can kind of, let's put it this way. There's nobody that you're mentioning now, or nobody I ever mention, that is going to be a 100% pure human being. They all got their problems.
True.
You just got to know, you take what you can from them that is valuable. Have
you read this?
I think I have, but I think it was when I was younger, because I know my dad was into it around the time I read Atlas Shrugged, but I think I only read it the one time, so I do not remember. Atlas Shrugged I've read many times.
Actually, you've borrowed this particular copy. Remember, I kept bugging you to give it back because I wanted it.
Okay, well then, yes.
Yeah, The God of the Machine by Isabel Patterson is a great book. A contemporary of Ayn Rand.
Yes.
They wrote back and forth. And the first 2-3 chapters, I think people, if they find it a little difficult to get through, can actually skip. What she does is to treat economics and politics in a sort of a mechanical sense, talking about energy flow and things of that nature. And it's a great book to get your head around if you got the time. But anyway, that's all. Television. The videos that we're producing, the Twitter, the Facebook, the social media, I think if we rely on it too much for our vocabulary, our jargon of today's political discussion, and forget all of the books out there that have been written.
The foundational principles.
Yeah, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So if anybody's interested in where you or your father Bob, myself, or a lot of these other people who are out there talking about political thought and philosophic thought want to get a better handle on some of that foundation, go out and read a book.
All right, and on that note, in the immortal words of the critical drinker, And that's all I've got for today. Go away now. Cheers.
If you've enjoyed this presentation, visit justrightmedia.org for more programming that's not right-wing, it's just right.